Good evening. The Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Wednesday, April 14th, 2021 is called to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, will you please note the roll?
Commissioner Clymer is present. Commissioner Steiner is present. Commissioner Maloney is present. Vice Chairman Barnes is present on the phone. Chairman Bray is present. Commissioner Ellison is absent. Commissioner Kish is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Can I get someone from the staff? Thank you. Understand. Thank you. Can we go ahead and have the doors closed, please? I believe that, is there a screen on outside where they could see where we're at or see the meeting?
There's a TV out there in the lobby.
There is a monitor in the hallway that has volume and everything, and when somebody does want to speak, we will call their name and they will have an opportunity to come forward.
Okay, perfect. So you won't miss a minute of the action if you're in the lobby. Thank you. Now I lost my place. You said, is Commissioner Kish on the line?
Vice Chairman Barnes is on the line.
Vice
and
Chairman Barnes is on the
Commissioner
line.
Kish and Commissioner Ellison are absent.
Okay, can I get a motion to excuse Commissioner Kish and Commissioner Ellison from this evening's meeting, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we excuse Commissioner Ellison and Commissioner Kish from the meeting this evening.
I second.
Been moved by Commissioner Steiner, seconded by Commissioner Clymer to excuse those commissioners from this evening's meeting. Is there any discussion? Nope. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 1 is to approve the draft minutes from Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on March 10th, 2021. The draft is online. Is there any discussion on those minutes? A motion to approve, please.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion to approve the minutes for the March 10th, 2001 minutes.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Maloney, seconded by Commissioner Steiner to approve the minutes from the March 10th, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now is the time for citizens who would like to address the Planning and Zoning Commission on any non-agenda items. These are non-agenda items. Do we have any speakers cards? Anyone from the audience wish to address the commission? All right. On to disclosure of ex parte communication. This is the opportunity of commissioner members to disclose any ex parte communication that may have happened prior to this meeting to discuss any of the agenda items. Any disclosures? Yes, Commissioner Clymer.
I have received probably a dozen emails from Pebble Creek residents referencing the agenda item tonight. I looked through them very briefly, then put them in a file. So that's what I've received. I suspect that Commissioner Maloney has done the
I
same.
have also received the same.
Thank you. If you'll note that Commissioner Clymer and Commissioner Maloney have both received letters regarding the pickleball agenda item. Anything from Commissioner Vice Chairman Barnes?
No communications for me.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 2, this is new business. This is the preliminary plat for Estrella parcels 11.12, and Alex will present to us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. As you mentioned, this is for the preliminary plat for Estrella parcel 11I2. 11I2 is part of the Lucero PAD, just at the entrance of the Estrella Mountain Ranch community. It is this red one in the bottom left of the screen, designated as low medium density residential within the Lucero PAD. The preliminary plat is approximately 6 acres which includes includes 23 lots and one major tract that runs around the perimeter of the parcel. The lot sizes are 47 by 90. I did have a typo in the staff report, just on the description of the lot size or the lot setbacks. The side setback is actually 5 feet as the minimum, not 6 feet. So I apologize for that. Here's a look at the landscape plan. So there's not, unlike many of the other parcels within Lucero, this is a little bit restricted on the hillside, and then the Tucson Electric power easement along the east of the parcel. So there isn't much room for open space, but this parcel is served by the Lucero amenities, which do include the Hillside Park and then the Lucero Welcome Center. Within the grand scheme of Lucero, the main connection is that Hillside Drive that runs through, but the access to this parcel will be off Sendero Drive, which will connect off Hillside, make the loop through these additional parcels, 11E and 11F1, and then 11I2, 11I1 is what you approved or recommended for approval a couple months ago. So all of these will be coming in about the same time for access purposes. It does meet the zoning ordinance, the Lucero PAD, and engineering standards. Therefore, staff does recommend approval. That concludes my presentation. Pete Tyke, I believe, is on the phone if you have any questions, but that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. Any questions for Alex at this time?
Nope.
Nope. Commissioner Barnes, Vice Chairman, do you have any questions for staff?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand is Mr. Tyke on the phone with us this evening? Mr. Tyke, are you there, and would you like to address the commission at this time?
I'm here, and nope, just I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Tyke? Are there any speakers cards on this agenda item? Anybody from the public on this? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the preliminary plat for Estrella parcel 11.12.
I second.
Been moved by Commissioner Clymer, seconded by Commissioner Maloney to approve the preliminary plat for 11-I2. Is there any discussion?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tyke. Agenda item number 3, this is the rezone for Aviata at Canyon Trails. I will open the public hearing and ask Alex to present again. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. This is for the Aviata multifamily rezone. The property is located at the northeast corner of Cotton Lane and West Canyon Trails Boulevard. It's that little piece on this left side with the green star. To the south is the Canyon Trails Town Center, which the major anchor there is Target. To the east is existing single-family residential as part of the Canyon Trails planned area development. Just southeast of the site is the Copper Trails Elementary School. To the west, like I said, is Cotton Lane with the future 303 planned to move south. And then to the west of the 303 on this north half is the Hancock at Canyon Trails, and Hancock and Christopher Todd. Under half of it is under construction, and the other has just recently received site plan approval. So some multifamily over there, and then additional single-family residential within the Canyon Trails PAD. On the right is the existing Canyon Trails planned area development map. The area in the little box right here shows that the property was designated for a medium high density residential or court homes as identified on the map exhibit. The general plan designates this property and the north-south property as business and commerce, which multifamily is permitted within this general plan land use. It serves as a buffer between the freeway and the single family, and also serves the adjacent commercial center. The request today is to rezone the property to the city's MF24 multifamily district. No deviations from the city's standards are being provided or being requested. So there's no PAD overlay. It's just a straight MF24 rezone. These are conceptual elevations that the applicant has provided. During the rezone process, we do not approve site plans or elevations, anything kind of at that more detailed level. We look at things at a very high level and would provide courtesy comments. So these may not be what get approved. They are just there for reference. And then this is the carriage unit elevation that the applicant has provided. So along the freeway in lieu of a sound wall or in addition to a sound wall, they would use this as a buffer for sound mitigation on the site. So when we look at the conceptual site plan, you might see some carriage units along the west side here against Cotton Lane. And then, like I said, this is the conceptual site plan, not to be approved with the rezoning. It is simply provided for reference, and then courtesy comments are provided to the applicant, but it is not approved with a rezoning request. There was a virtual neighborhood meeting held via Zoom on December 9th. The applicant and I were on the call. We did not have anyone show up to that meeting. But since then, one resident has reached out, has not objected to the rezoning, but did have some concerns about traffic and some site planning that was included in the project narrative. He has been working with us, you know, like I said, asking questions about traffic impacts. We've shared with him the studies, and I have not received any written comment or objection from him, but just to make you aware, he was reaching out. I think he was trying to make it tonight, but he might be here, I'm not sure. The rezone request does meet the general plan, the intent of the zoning ordinance, or the standards of the zoning ordinance, engineering standards. Luke Air Force Base does get a review of these rezones. The intent is to meet the graduated density concept that we have the agreement with Luke Air Force Base on. In and of itself, it doesn't meet the density reduction, but as a whole, within the Canyon Trails development, we've been tracking the density of the previously agreed upon dwelling counts. So they did not object to this rezone, given that agreement we've had in the past. So they did provide written response. Therefore, staff does recommend approval. The applicant is here and has a presentation available, and myself or him can answer any questions.
Thank you, Alex. Does anyone have questions for staff at this time? Commissioner Clymer.
Did they have any particular, the one person that reached out, any particular issues, traffic right at that point, or?
Thank you. So the conversations were about recent increased traffic along Canyon Trails Boulevard, but we did share that the traffic study that was provided was approved by the city traffic engineer and did not exceed any calculations requiring additional traffic mitigation. If that answers your question.
I understand you said the applicant is here today.
That's correct.
Does the applicant wish to address the commission on this issue?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Thank you to staff for turning on the microphone. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Andrew Yancey. I'm an attorney with Bergen, Frank, Smalley, and Oberholzer. We're at 4343 East Camelback Road in Phoenix. We're here representing the Hears Management Company. They've already purchased this property, and they have plans to construct, own, and operate the Aviata project. So they're going to stay with it after it's constructed. They've built and operated projects all over the valley. They got about 3,000 units under management now. They really focus on attractive upscale amenities, quality architecture, as well as vibrant landscaping. And of course, we're looking forward to bringing a quality community here to Goodyear. Just briefly to address the one resident who reached out, we did speak with him. He lives just to the east of the property. Said he does support multifamily going in here, but had questions about what it's going to look like and traffic and just several things that would be standard things to want to know if you live in the area. We've actually provided him with, he provided us with photos of his backyard. Looking out over our site, you can see across it to Cotton Lane right now, which will eventually be the 303 freeway. And we had our architect do some renderings to put in there and show him what it'll look like. You can see it, I think Alex had it up on the, sorry, it's the last slide, of course. That's looking from this gentleman's backyard. You see the existing condition. Proposed when our renderer put it in there, it was all tree cover and landscaping, so our renderer backed it out a little bit just so you can see some of what the buildings will look like from that vantage point. That is looking across a 100-foot linear park that's existing, and then we have a 50-foot setback there on that side of our property that is going to be landscaped, in particular with trees sort of stepping down from the buildings to the area. The zoning ordinance required setback from residential of that area is 100 feet with the step back, and we're actually 150 feet away, so we exceed that standard by 50 feet. As Alex mentioned, I do have a full PowerPoint presentation I could give if you like, but would be happy to just answer questions and point to particular slides if needed.
I think that would be the best use of everyone's time. Any questions for the applicant at this time? Vice Chairman Barnes, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Are
you.
there any speaker cards on this particular item? Anyone from the public wish to address the commission on agenda item number 3? All right. With that, I will close the public hearing and take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the rezone for Aviata at Canyon Trails, case number 20210-00004.
I second.
Been moved by Commissioner Steiner, seconded by Commissioner Clymer to approve the rezone of Aviata at Canyon Trails. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you to the applicant. Agenda item number 4 is Pueblo Verde Storage Special Unit Use Permit. And I will open the public hearing on that, and Christian is going to present.
All right. Good evening, Chairman Bray and the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm here before you this evening with a request from Greg Davis to hear a special use permit request on a property within the city. The property is located in central Goodyear, and it is approximately 3.8 acres located on a portion of property at the southeast corner of Saraville Avenue and Yuma Road. The property is currently zoned C1, which is neighborhood commercial, and the property is located in the vicinity of the star on the map. Zooming in a little closer, you can see that this project is within a portion of an undeveloped neighborhood commercial center within the Pueblo Verde planned area development. The property is west of Goodyear Fire Station 184. That is right here. It is south of the existing single-family homes within Wildflower Ranch, north of existing single-family homes in the Glenmont Estates Pueblo Verde development, and it is east of custom homes within Vanderbilt Farms Saraville Gardens. The storage unit proposes to consume 3.8 acres of the site and will leave a remainder of 2.72 acres. The applicant intends to develop a portion of the vacant property within the Pueblo Verde Glenmont Estates development into self-storage facility and has submitted the application for this special use permit. The property where the storage facility is proposed consists of approximately 3.8 acres. The hard corner will keep the 2.72 acres and will not have buildings constructed at the northwest corner will not have buildings constructed at the time that the storage unit is constructed. The proposal calls for 2 driveways, parking lots and screen walls, landscaping, retention, and storage facility. Improvements will be made to a portion of the unlandscaped median island within Yuma Road, just north of the proposed storage. As you'll probably recall, that median island is largely vacant and dirt today. And the proposal is for a 101,537 square foot building, which will include indoor convenience storage. That will be in a 2-story building on the north end of the property, and it will feature internal storage. The garage will be inside the building. There will also be some external units that are on the south side of the building on the first floor. Those will also be contained within a yard that is screened. The southern end of the site, I'll kind of point that out. So this is the 2-story building along Yuma Road. The internal yard is here. And the south end of the site will contain single-story buildings that face internally and have roll-up or garage doors that face internally, but people would come and access those doors outside in the yard. So of the total on the site, 64,000 square feet is in the 2-story building, and approximately 36,000 square feet are in the 1-story buildings on the south end of the site. There will be 14 parking spaces outside of the secure lot and in the secure lot that allow customers, workers, and guests to access the facility. So again, I know this is kind of complicated to see, but you have the vacant property at the west, you have 2 driveways, you have the 2-story building, the office, and then these are single-story buildings where the garages face internally. The rendering of the buildings you can see are on the right side of the screen. So this would be the north elevation to Yuma. This would be the south elevation to the existing residential, and this would be the eastern facing from the east side of the west side of the property, west facing, that would face towards Cerebral and Vanderbilt. The proposed operation hours for the facility are between 5 a.m. and 10 p.m., and the applicant contemplates the office being open to the general public between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. This is an enlarged image of the site plan. So the buildings on the north side, again, are 2 stories. They have internal storage units. The external units face into a screen yard. And then the first story, 1-story buildings are in the internal yard. So it kind of walls itself in there. On the next slide, I'm going to talk in particular about Building B, which is the building that is on the far east side of the property and is adjacent to the Goodyear Fire Station. So this building proposes a 0-foot setback to the adjacent property line, which is our Goodyear Fire Station 184. Typically, as a standard, the city does not want parallel walls to be constructed within 20 feet of one another. Some of the reasons for that is to prevent people, trash, and unsightliness from accumulating in this area or congregating between a hidden narrow corridor. We also do not want 2 walls built and stacked adjacent to one another for a myriad of engineering reasons. To ensure a 21 or greater foot gap exists, does not exist because 21 feet is still a narrow area. What is being proposed is that the wall be located along the western boundary of Fire Station 184. Planning staff, the applicant, are all in support of this concept, and that would ask for a reduction of that side setback to 0 when it is adjacent to the fire station wall. So this is the fire station property here. There's a wall here that is secure on the southern end. So on this southern end, we are requesting an applicant is requesting a 0-foot setback. This will also, so what that means is when they construct Building B, which is a storage building with the garage doors facing to the west, there will be a wall here on the back of the building. This is an example of that wall. So where the wall of that building ultimately ends up lying, the fire station wall that you see here will be demolished. And the developer will then ensure that the north and south ends of the wall, if let's say it's 1 foot in or 2 foot in, it's reconnected so that the fire station secured area is secure. and any landscaping or disturbances that occurred on the fire station side, the developer would mitigate. To address these deal points that would need to be struck in order for this to occur and to allow for the 0-foot setback to occur, this will involve our city attorney's office drafting any agreements or easements that need to be approved before this. And those deal points are included in the stipulations that you see. So those stipulations set the groundwork for the agreement. If the agreement can be met between the city manager and the city attorney and the applicant, then that 0-foot setback would be permissible. So again, this is so again, this wall will be the wall here on the back of building B. This is the elevation on the north side here. And this wall correlates with the fire station wall that's approximately 6 feet that would be removed in lieu of a 10 to 13 foot high building back wall. I will also highlight a few other stipulations for you. Similar to the last storage case that you all heard back in November 2020, windows should be tinted in a manner so that the contents, decorations, and garage doors are not visible inside the building, and the window tinting should not cause a glare or reflection. In Goodyear, garage and roll-up doors on buildings are typically screened, and as you can see in the case of some storage units that are common across the valley, in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, real windows are typically lit up at night and expose bright garage doors, which then become unattractive architectural elements of the building, more or less. So this stipulation would prevent this storage unit, as well as the last case you heard, from doing such. So this stipulation would prevent those brightly lit garage doors that are typical in other places in the valley. The stipulation, however, does permit them to utilize their office space on the first floor as a means for views for the customers into the office of the storage unit building. This fits in line with what you might see in a typical commercial center as seen on the bottom left, where there are small views into commercial operations and offices. The areas that, again, are providing views for them into the building would be at the office, which would be on the northwest corner of the storage building. The site is between 3 existing residential developments, and in order to address additional lighting concerns, all site lighting, building, parking, and security shall be directed down with sharp cutoff directional lighting fixtures, and all lighting on the site shall be dimmed to 50% between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. I will pause there and state that we modified the stipulation. You have a copy of the stipulation, and I will read that for you. This is the change. It reads that all site lighting shall be directed down with sharp cutoff directional lighting fixtures. All lighting on the site shall be dimmed to 50% between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. No wall-mounted lights on the one-story buildings may be placed higher than above 8 feet above the building foundation, and no wall-mounted lights may be placed on the west side of Building D, the west side of Building E, or on the south side of Building G. The 10 p.m. time is actually 1 hour earlier than they would normally be allowed under existing city code. So this stipulation was crafted to help protect light with residential nearby. We discussed the firewall requirements on the previous slide. And again, to screen the roll-up garage doors on those one-story buildings in their yard and features of that nature, the sliding gate shall be screened in an architecturally designed manner which shield the interior storage from the public view. So things like PVC, vinyl, or other slatted inserts into the gates that do not construe architecturally designed material and garage doors, those will not be permitted. And then the garage door should be painted to match the building, so we don't, again, have these bright garage doors that don't match the character of the neighborhood. Staff has evaluated the impacts of this proposed special use permit to the greater community, and with no major concerns being found, aside from those mentioned by stipulation related to the fire station wall, noise, light, and neighborhood continuity through aesthetics, staff recommends you forward an approval recommendation for a special use permit for convenient storage, mini storage, on a 3.8 acre property zone C1 neighborhood commercial, located southeast of Saraville Avenue and Yuma Road, subject to the stipulations found in the staff report and modifications to stipulation number 9. I believe the applicant is here, but they do not need to speak if you do not need them. But at this point, I will pause my presentation and hand it back over to you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Christian. Appreciate that presentation. I just have one question. The hours of operation, are we being consistent with that? I know that we did the same type of thing with that storage unit on Litchfield. So is that standard for us?
So typically, the applicant will propose their hours of operation.
Okay.
So that's what generally occurs there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Christian at this time? Anything from Vice Chairman Barnes?
No questions from me.
Thank you. You said the applicant is here. Does the applicant wish to address the commission?
He does not. He's quite pleased with this recommendation.
That's good. All right. With that, are there any speakers cards? Anybody from the public wish to address the commission on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Palo Verde Storage Special Use Permit, case number 19350000001.
I second.
A friendly amendment, Mr. Steiner, will you include the additional language provided tonight in your motion, please?
So repeat the motion.
The motion and the additional stipulation.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Palo Verde Storage Special Use Permit, case number 19350000001, with the amendment on the lighting for the facility.
Perfect. Commissioner Clymer, you're still good with that?
I'm still good with my second, yes.
Good. All right. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Christian. Agenda item number 5, probably why everybody is here, the Filiberto's use permit. That's, Steve will be presenting on that tonight.
Do you only do food, Steve?
Food and signs. Food and signs.
Could you please open the public hearing?
He's got a sandwich or a drink every shop in town. Oh, public hearing is now open.
Mr. Chairman, commission members, it will be kind of funny. I do think it is food, my next visit to you, so next month or so. I'll keep to that pattern. But tonight's item is a use permit for Filiberto's. Location is here, 303 Indian School Road. Here's the parcel right here within this triangular commercial area. To the north, we have UPS. Then surrounding here to the east and then south, we have Pebble Creek. This is the Pebble Creek RV storage area right here, golf course, refinery church, and then back to the 303. The parcel is located within the PV 303 planned area development. This is it right here. It's about 1,800 acres. In this area, we see a lot of the large industrial warehousing along the 303, and most of this P80 is industrial, except for these orange areas here, which are commercial. So overall, we have zoning adopted 2005, 2008, and where we're at right here is East 2, and again, in this commercial triangular area right here. And because it is commercial zoning, use permit is required for convenience uses, which does include restaurants with drive-throughs. And so the request tonight is for a use permit for the drive-through restaurant. Parcel is about 0.83 acres. The proposal is a 2,200 square foot Filiberto's Mexican food restaurant with a drive-through. Since it is located within a mostly undeveloped commercial center, the master developer will complete many of the surrounding improvements. And this is that 0.83 acre parcel. Here's the Indian School Road, has a little bit of frontage right on Indian School. This is the restaurant right here in about the center portion of the property. Double drive-through lane, enter here on the south side, wrap around to the east, pickup window right here. Customers will then exit here at the north, go either left or right. These are the proposed elevations submitted with the use permit. And I should note for the commission, at this point, we are just looking at the use permit, the site plan details and technical items, the proposed elevations. Those are still conceptual at this point. Staff will work with the applicant to ensure all the site plans and elevations meet our design guidelines and all our regulations. And for a use permit, we have two main criteria that we look at, and right here. And what we found is the property and surrounding area are intended for commercial use, so this commercial restaurant use should fit in with those uses, be similar to the other uses that are allowed within the center. There's almost 700 feet of distance between the proposed restaurant and the nearest residence within Pebble Creek, with the RV and the golf course acting as a buffer between those two uses. Also, because it's convenience use, there's 4 other additional criteria that we look at. And in looking at this site, we did find that the queuing for the drive-through, that should occur all on site, not impact any public streets. The hours of operation, a 24/7 proposal. No restrictions proposed by staff given its location within a developing commercial center. Again, the traffic mitigation, those items will be constructed by the master developer. And I should note there also is a traffic signal at UPS Way and 166th Avenue that does serve the median break for this future center. And any other concerns, like I mentioned before, we still need to look at the site plan, the building elevations that will occur with the site plan review. Public participation for the citizen review and the public hearing, staff did conduct all required notice. To date, we have not received any opposition to this project. With our findings, we find that project does meet all of those evaluation criteria for the use permit and the convenience uses, so staff is recommending approval subject to those 6 stipulations that are in the staff report. With that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions for staff? Commissioner Clymer.
I'm trying to see on the little map here, that UPS Way, the traffic light, where is that just adjacent across the street from that?
Mr. Chairman, Commission members? Yes, right
right
here.
there.
Yes,
Okay.
here's the subject property. Just a little further to the west, we will have that signal right there. And
I noticed in the report there was talk about a possible future stoplight. Is that what it said? Maybe? Or did I misread that? But anyway, for the people coming out of that to go left or right, there's no traffic light at present.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, eventually this site will hook up over to 166, and then customers will have a traffic signal.
Okay.
Any other traffic signals that would be needed, they
All right.
would need to be installed by the master developer.
Because right now that traffic from Indian School going eastbound is quite often in excess of 60 miles an hour there. So someone pulling out without a light is maybe in some danger, but.
Yes, sir.
I think if we go back to the site plan, I don't think do they have access directly onto Indian School?
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, no, this site will not have access directly to Indian School.
So they have to go back
They
to
have
the
to back
line.
to
That's what
166.
Commissioner Clymer
Yeah,
was
yeah,
worried,
that's what-
concerned about, I think, is direct access to Indian School, which I'd agree. And so they will not.
No, sir.
Okay. Any other questions for the staff? You said, is the applicant present tonight? Is the applicant here? Do you wish to address the commission, or? Okay, any questions for the applicant? No. Seeing none. Any questions from Vice Chairman Barnes? Okay, are there any speakers cards? Anyone from the public wish to address us on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I vote that we move for the Filiberto's Restaurant with drive-through to be passed. I don't have numbers on my sheet, so I can't give you the case number.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Maloney, seconded by Commissioner Steiner for the approval of the Filiberto's use permit. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it. Agenda item number 6. This is the Pebble Creek Phase 2 Pickleball and Recreation Plan. And this will, Christian will present to us this evening on this one, and I will open the public hearing.
I brought my coffee this time because I feel like I might be here a while. Good evening, everyone, and thank you. I'm here with a rezoning request from Ed Bull to conduct a rezoning on a property within the city. This property is approximately 5.97 acres, and it is located within Pebble Creek. The property is currently zoned PAD under the Pebble Creek Golf Resort Phase 2 zoning, and it is located right here at the star right here, and I will be zooming in a lot for this one. You can see that the project is within the Tuscany Falls section of Pebble Creek. More specifically, it is west of Saraville Avenue, which is a gated private street, south of Indian School Road, and the RV storage that is along Indian School. It is south of a vacant land, which is part of the PV 303 commercial and potentially a future Filiberto's. It is west of Fairmont Avenue, and north along a private street called 165th Avenue, which is also north of Piccadilly Road. This is north of an existing golf course, and it is east of the Pebble Creek Unit 43 development, which I believe are townhomes, or northwest of that. And to the west of it is an existing golf course and additional PV 303 commercial. And I will zoom in again, but it is this yellow area here, Saraville private, Indian School public, Filiberto's that you just discussed is here. So the development's right here. So let's zoom in even further. So within the northwest section of Tuscany Falls on the Pebble Creek side, again, there's that gated neighborhood, Saraville, Fairmount, which operates somewhat like a collector roadway, 165th. And then you can see this is undeveloped here. So this will continue into future residential. And this is what we were discussing today, which is currently vacant, has RV storage on it, and partially within the golf course area. For a little history on the property, the subject property is located again within Pebble Creek Golf Resorts Phase 2, which was zoned Final Planned Area Development zoning district back in 1998. The Pebble Creek Golf Resorts Phase 2 PAD established land uses throughout Pebble Creek Golf Resorts Phase 2, and it included the subject property. The original land use designation for the subject property was residential and golf course uses. However, following the passage of Arizona State Bill 1062, which provided land use, compatibility, and noise attenuation standards for developments around military bases, the council adopted ordinance number 2002-782, which modified the permitted uses for the subject property to recreational vehicle storage and golf course maintenance yard. And as you're all aware, the Luke Air Force Base would be kind of where my mouse is here, so the flight path goes over this area. The current proposed rezoning seeks to amend the permitted uses for the 5.97 acres to allow for a mix of recreational uses, including pickleball courts and other uses that are Luke Air Force Base compatible. So again, original areas here in 1998. In 2005, this was the zoning area. And today we're talking about this 5.97 acres of that originally zoned area. The site proposes 8 principal uses. Those uses include pickleball courts, tennis courts, basketball courts, remote control vehicle tracks, shuffleboards, bocce ball, archery ranges, dog parks and or pet runs, and again, other uses that are analogous to those above, as determined by the zoning administrator. For example, if Robeson or the Pebble Creek HOA said they wanted to add a cornhole court, or as some in the Midwest might call a bag toss, that would fall within the analogous to those uses as stated above and would not require a rezone. If they said they wanted an outdoor gun range, that would not be an analogous use. In addition to the uses, there are various development standards. They must provide a minimum of 49 parking spaces. There shall be 2 spaces per pickleball court, 1 parking space per 250 feet of pavilion or shaded pavilion, a maximum building height of 25 feet. There's also a 10-foot perimeter building setback for an active outdoor recreational uses may be no closer than 150 feet to a residential home. Light poles may not exceed 20 feet in height. Wall and screen wall heights may extend up to 10 feet, and boundary court screen walls or screen fencing may come as close to 5 feet to a perimeter wall. Those are some of the standard future, these are also some of the standard future site plans let me rephrase that. Those requirements are some of the items that I will check the site plan against when a site plan is submitted to the city. In addition, the hours of operation for this property are restricted to between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. If the zoning is approved, staff anticipates that Robeson will submit a site plan for the construction of an initial 16 pickleball court facility, a bathroom facility, drinking fountains, and parking lots with approximately 69 parking spaces. We would also anticipate the landscape plan to include decomposed granite across the balance of the site and wall plans for courts, screening and noise buffering as well. It is my understanding that after construction of the initial facility, the complex will be turned over to the Pebble Creek HOA. As a reminder to those who might be watching, zoning comes before the Planning and Zoning Commission and then goes to the City Council. The site plan is an administrative process that staff oversees. What is before the Commission tonight is the zoning, which includes the permitted uses and development standards of this site, which include those uses that you heard earlier as well on the previous slide. What you see on the screen would be approved at the site planning process. So let's discuss public input. On February 23rd of this year, a virtual meeting was held for the proposed rezoning, and that was applicant run, and more than 177 residents were online to watch that meeting. Unfortunately, there were some technical issues that occurred, and that resulted in more than 90 residents leaving the meeting prior to the question and answer section that occurred. As a result of the first neighborhood meeting, planning staff received resident concerns including noise, light, hours of operation, location of the proposed facilities, proximity to existing homes, wall screen height, cut-through traffic on residential streets, traffic on 165th Avenue, and the additional uses that they actually requested, some of which would be the dog run. After the first neighborhood meeting, I also am aware that the Pebble Creek Pickleball Club sent an email to their members, and that resulted in a significant outreach to council. And as a result of those technical issues from the first neighborhood meeting, the applicant hosted a second virtual neighborhood meeting and to discuss the project and receive that input. The meeting took place on March 16th and had approximately 26 online residents. In order to notify residents of that second meeting, the applicant sent email invitations to 251 residents who registered for the first meeting and sent letters to 186 property owners who received the postcard concerning the first virtual meeting. General questions from the March 16th meeting included, again, sound and screen wall height, access to the construction yard via the proposed facility once Pebble Creek is built out, the ability for have a dog park on site, which again resulted in the dog park use being added, bicycle parking, traffic on 165th, tennis courts, the Tuscany Falls recreational area, and things of that nature. So I'll go into a little bit more detail now. So more than 313 emails have been received by City Council and myself, or I've been carbon copied or forwarded them. And I reread them all this week, so it's been a very fun week. But based on my summary of the over 313 emails being read, I would paraphrase some of the comments below that are for and against. Those that stated for said increased home values, the reason they came to Pebble Creek or bought in Pebble Creek, the overcrowding at the existing courts. There's an existing recreational center at Saraville and Clubhouse Drive in the center of Phase 2. So that also has some pickleball courts. So they said there's overcrowding there. They said it's a very fast-growing sport, that the club money went towards the project. They wanted to be able to host events and tournaments and bring dollars to Goodyear. They have to travel to the city of Surprise for the ability to play, lack of capacity at the 20 courts, and they say an opportunity to socialize and make friends. And they said that the sound of pickleball is nothing compared to Indian School or Jets. Those that were against or seemed to be against the project said the sound is much different than Jets or Indian School Road, and it will go on all day. Some do not want national tournaments. They stated an informal survey occurred of their residency, and many people stated no. They said 2 locations for pickleball is problematic. Again, traffic on 165th, membership requirements to play, maintenance costs to the HOA, noise, the original hours of 10 p.m., which the applicant has now reduced to 9 p.m., Robeson paying for a portion of those amenities, light pollution, golf and the interference with golfing activities in the tee box. One was the desire to have a dog park there or move a dog park there, which the applicant did agree to add that as a use that's as permitted. Converting tennis courts instead of pickleball. There's ideas of the model home complex being, the parking there being excessive, so maybe adding pickleball courts there. Some residents stated they moved to this section of Pebble Creek to be away from the pickleball noise. Some residents stated they'd rather the courts be closer to 303. And then again, concerns on Indianola, Fairmont for traffic, and then opportunities at Eagle's Nest for courts. And then another one that was stated was the wall height. Initially, there was provisions to allow it to go to 8 feet in height only. The applicant has adjusted that so that the wall can go to 10 feet in height. So that's a summary of some of the 313 emails that I received and kind of read through. With that, the recommendation before you includes recommending approval of the request to rezone the property to PAD, which would include an amendment to the existing Pebble Creek Golf Resort Phase 2 PAD to include the Pebble Creek Phase 2 Northwest Pickleball and Recreation PAD for the 5.97 acres described in this presentation. With that, I believe that the applicant has a presentation that they'd like to give before you discuss, and I also believe there are comments to be read into the record during the public comment process. And for those in the public who might be listening, once the commission discussion, public comment, and ultimate recommendation is concluded, the item in recommendation will be forwarded to the City Council, who will discuss the matter during a public hearing held on April 26, 2021 at 6 p.m. here in Council Chambers. And with that, I will call the applicant, Mr. Bull, up and turn the meeting over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Before we go to Mr. Bull, is there any questions from any of the commissioners for Christian?
Christian, I have a question.
Sure.
So I understand where the pickleball courts are, I believe, but how close are they to those golf course lots? Those people that live right on the golf course?
I believe.
Excuse me.
Yes.
And did they also say they're moving the dog park down to where that one is? Can they use that land up by the dog park, which is on the corner of Saraville and Clubhouse Drive?
The question about whether they can use a dog park elsewhere is a question for the applicant or the HOA. But as it relates to this 5.97 acres, where the current phase of pickleball courts are proposed, I believe is in excess of 400 feet from the closest residence. However, with the uses that are outdoor in nature, the staff report or the provision in the zoning states that outdoor activity needs to be with further than 130 feet from the nearest residence. So what you're seeing here is what the applicant plans to construct with the first phase. But as it relates to allowable uses, outdoor activities of that nature, that are sports in nature, can come as close as 130 feet.
Ooh.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I have one.
Commissioner Clymer.
I've been trying to read in there. 69 parking places. Now, that's it? There's no other parking places? I hear talk about tournaments and so forth. I'm trying to figure out how they would get more people there without only 69 car spots.
That's a great question. So what the PAD states is that they will build initially 49 parking spaces. There are also requirements for how many spaces you need for courts. For example, for each pickleball court, you'll need 2 spaces. So if they were to present a site plan of this nature, I believe the parking, I would verify this is the site plan, but I believe the parking on that site would accommodate that type of use. Now, if they were to expand or add additional amenities to the site, I would then in a site plan look to see that the additional amenities have the parking that is required by either the PAD or Goodyear parking standards.
Any other questions for staff at this time? Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, Vice Chairman Barnes.
Christopher, could you tell me again what recreational uses are currently allowed on the property as it is zoned at this moment?
On this property, as it is currently zoned, it is zoned for golf course maintenance and RV parking. This rezoning would change the uses of this 5.7 acres to be for the recreational uses, the 8 that I mentioned in the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Christopher, it looks like you're burning to say something.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just as a point of clarification, thank you, Mr. Chairman, before Mr. Bull comes up. In Christian's synopsis of the public input that we received, we did receive a petition yesterday, which I believe is included in those numbers. Correct, Christian?
No, the petition is not included. Let me go back to the slide. I will explain that. So in the numbers, there was a petition. That's the April 13th form. In those numbers on that petition, which I believe Mr. Baker will be reading, there was one that was in favor and 51 of the names were in opposition.
Right. And then, thank you, Christian. And after Mr. Bull is done at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I have some emails from residents who were not able to come tonight that they emailed and asked for their comments to be read. So I'll read those at the appropriate time whenever you're ready for those. And then we have some other comments here that I'll mention as well at the appropriate time.
Absolutely. Thank you. At this time, Mr. Bull, would you like to address the commission?
Christian?
Yes, sir.
How do I get
Oh, sorry about
PowerPoint
that.
and how do I advance it?
Let me get you there. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Ed Bull, I'm here representing Robeson Communities. My address is 1850 North Central Avenue. I want to emphasize that the primary focus of this request is on pickleball. As there's been some discussion, there's ability within the PAD that's before you to add other things like cornhole or horseshoes or other kinds of things like that. Discussions that we've had with neighbors and other interested parties have provided that any uses beyond pickleball is something that would be discussed within the HOA. And that's something that Jack Sarsam, who's the Senior VP of Operations from Robeson Communities, is well aware of and is acknowledged in our second neighborhood meeting, I believe it was. When we go through the various slides, again, emphasizing this focus is primarily on pickleball, but the zoning allows more things than that. But we emphasized, as I said, additional things, if any, would be not only subject to staff site plan review, but would be subject to HOA approval as well. Staff is recommending approval. We appreciate that recommendation. We appreciate it in the context of the fact that Pebble Creek, as you know, is an active adult community. There's a lot of different clubs and organizations within Pebble Creek. Some are recreational in nature, some are not. Pickleball has certainly been in a sport that's been increasing and continues to increase in popularity. We appreciate that recommendation for approval, and we accept staff's 4 stipulations. Without repeating the things that Christian went through in his presentation, Pebble Creek, as you probably know, is about 2,300 acres. This proposed development is located in the northwestern area of Pebble Creek. It is an area that is, as he touched on, has, and I don't know how to use a pointer without the mouse, but at any rate, we have Indian School and the large UPS facility to the north, 303 to the west. Various existing and future employment uses will be, as you know, all along the 303, in addition to some commercial, some of which you talked about tonight in this area. As we continue to zoom in, this is the just under 6 acres. It is acreage that is partially RV parking today and partially vacant. There's 269 RV spaces that were there previously once it was decided that houses could not be built in this area because of Luke influences. With the pickleball facility taking out about 126 spaces, there'd still be about 143 RV or trailer spaces left within this area. The development, if I can get this, well, we have 43B to our southeast, 43A south of that. The vacant land is 45. When we look at this next slide, which is one of the slides that Christopher had up on the screen, it's showing that not only is this proposed development in the far northwesternmost area of Pebble Creek, but the pickleball courts themselves are in the northwesternmost portion of the overall pickleball area. One of the important things on this slide, which I'll emphasize in another one later, is this red line that runs through here. And I'll get a slide up in a moment that shows that that is a wall. It'll probably be masonry on top of berm that by a note will be a minimum of 9 feet. The PAD allows it to go up to 10 feet as a noise mitigation wall. The parking that's identified in this area is 69 spaces. If it was all regular vehicles, it's my understanding that spaces get kind of split in half sometimes for golf carts versus regular vehicles. There's also bicycle parking that's provided here. The area that is located in this northeasternmost portion is an area that could be expanded for additional parking if need be. Again, the focus of this application is on pickleball for use of the residents of Pebble Creek. If that expands per HOA discussions to include other activities or to include the possibility of tournaments, this area, as I mentioned, that's gray, could be an additional parking expansion area. The slide that's up here shows some distances from the pickleball courts themselves to the nearest home. These homes in this area today, I understand, are owned by Robeson or a Robeson, the related entity, but from the nearest court to the nearest existing home is approximately 590 feet, or nearly 2 football fields. From the restroom to the closest home, which is here, is 45. The restroom and Ramada facility would be 1 story, and we can talk about that when we get another slide up. When this development occurs on the vacant land that's to the south, the closest home will be about 450 feet. Again, importantly, there's
a minimum of a 9-foot wall that occurs in this area. But the distances are substantial. They're greater than distances typically when you're talking about separation between homes and a recreational facility. This is a slide that I mentioned that has a note on it, which you may not be able to read on the screen, and I don't know how to blow it up in the PowerPoint, but that note says it's a sound wall. It'd be masonry and likely a berm, and that will be a minimum of 10 feet. Again, the zoning would allow it to be up, it'd be a minimum of 9 feet. The zoning would allow it to be up to 10 feet for noise mitigation purposes. What we have then is a combination of extraordinary distances from the proposed pickleball courts to the nearest existing or proposed homes. We have the minimum of 9-foot wall. We have some one-story structures occurring in this area and additional land and separation and landscaping that would occur. So it's a product of having the Robeson folks and their designers initially listen to the needs for additional pickleball for the residents of Pebble Creek. Whether or not removing additional tennis courts was an option, and it's not, without upsetting others who like tennis. And in addition to that, to try to add additional pickleball at the existing facility has other issues with parking and separations from residences and so on there. But in addition to that, there's still people who like and want to play tennis. The wall was an important aspect. It's something we discussed a lot with various neighbors and during the 2 neighborhood meetings. These little buildings down here are the bathrooms and the ramada that was talked about, 1 story in height. And all of this is something that the pickleball courts, the walls, bathrooms and so on are being land donation, as well as most of the construction is being provided by Robeson Communities to be donated to the HOA. The Pickleball Club is also chipping in meaningfully into some of these improvements, and they may want to talk more about that. But it is an example of how, before we ever talked in any neighborhood meetings, the Robeson and their designers were trying to figure out where to put the facility, putting it somewhere where houses is not permitted because of Luke influences, pushing it as far north and west as we could in an area that in public reports indicated could be improved in the future with pickleball. We can go into that in more detail if you want. We also, in addition to that, in addition to normal emails and conversations and so on with a variety of neighbors and interested parties, had the 2 neighborhood meetings that Christian referenced.
That was 10 minutes.
I'm sorry?
That was 10 minutes.
I'll wrap up quickly if I may.
Please do.
So the first neighborhood meeting started well, then we had Zoom challenges where we were getting into questions. Many people got dropped off, some didn't, so we had a second meeting and focused on what were really the questions that we'd heard from emails and discussions with neighbors. These 10, well, actually more than 10, there were 16 questions on these 2 pages. We went through every one of them. Jack and I primarily during the second neighborhood meeting dealing with like when will it open, if we can build it, hours of operation. And again, the hours of operation from 6 to 9 is something that can be constricted by the HOA if they choose to do so. What happens to some construction access, a whole host of other things like that, and discussion about walls and traffic and so on, which were studied by a traffic consultant and by a noise consultant. Plenty of capacity in the streets. The noise increase is well below any standard that our noise consultant is aware of or can find anywhere. Where noise level at the nearest home in light of the wall would be 39 dBA, which is very low in the scheme of activities, and is something that we can go into more detail if you want. As Christian indicated, we did our best to notify not only the people you normally notify within 500 feet, but increase the notice for our second neighborhood meeting. We've received, either directly or indirectly, over 340 emails in support for various reasons, some of which Christian touched on, some of which he probably didn't, that's recapped in there, but he grabbed the essence of it certainly. And obviously, there's also some opposition, some of which we learned more about today. But in conclusion, we appreciate the opportunity to be here. We appreciate staff's recommendation for approval. We agree with the 4 stipulations. I'd like to reserve a little time for rebuttal, if I may, Chairman. But other than that, we'll stand for questions and look forward to hearing from others.
Thank you, Mr. Bull. Any questions for the applicant?
I do.
Yes, Commissioner Maloney.
I have 2 questions. The first question is, if they remove the dog park from where it is now, how many pickleball courts could they put in there? And could they put the dog park down where the new facility is?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, let me touch first on the dog park because, as Christian indicated, one of the uses that would be permitted within the zoning that's in front of you would allow a dog park to be located in this proposed new pickleball area. It's something, however, though, that in response to some other questions, it's not planned to move the dog park up to this new facility or to create a new dog park at this facility. The focus here, again, is on pickleball unless the HOA chooses to expand it. I've never been asked before, and I don't know if Jack or anyone knows the answer to your question. If the dog park moved from its existing location, how many pickleball courts could go there? So I'd simply be guessing with you, Commissioner, and that's not fair to you. And I know that there's resident proximity there as well that may generate some other issues and concerns as well as parking. But there's 16 courts proposed here, and that's what the Robeson folks believe is the demand based upon the increasing popularity of the sport.
So my second question is, when we all signed for our homes in Pebble Creek, one of the things that we had to acknowledge is that there would be noise from Luke Air Force Base. Do the people that bought those houses on the golf course down there, were they told that that land would be empty, or were they just told that there would be an existing RV park, but nothing else would go in?
It'll take me a little while to get there, Commissioner, but I will pull, this is the first page of the public reports that are on file with the Arizona Department of Real Estate. On the right is the public report for Unit 43B, which is the neighborhood immediately southeast of the proposed pickleball courts. And part of what's disclosed there is that vacant land could potentially be used for other community amenities such as, but not limited to, a dog park, pickleball courts, fitness center, and so on and so forth. So the disclosure was made there as well as other kinds of disclosures.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Mr. Bull at this time? Vice Chairman Barnes, do you have any questions?
No questions for Mr. Bull. Will we have a chance for additional questions to staff? Because I have a couple more once we get to that point.
If you have questions for staff, I'm sure that Christian can answer them now. Go ahead, Vice Chairman Barnes.
My question is, if this can be answered, the residents that were against the court, do we know if any of them live directly adjacent to the proposed pickleball court?
From my reading of the emails, yes, there were some residents who lived in Pebble Creek Unit 43B. I think that's the unit, 43B. that are adjacent to the courts. We do have addresses for other residents, but I can tell you that we did have, yes, some residents from the closest subdivision that were opposed to the project.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add.
Thank you.
The,
My only other question was access
Just a minute,
to
Mr.
this
Bull.
site. Will there be direct access from Indian School, or does all access go through the neighborhood?
to the Pebble, access to the pickleball courts are up Saravel, which is, Christian already explained, is a private street gated. Fairmont, which is a collector, and then on up to the pickleball courts. There's no direct access to or from Indian School Road. Fairmont is a street that divides 43B from 43A, and then the access going north up toward the pickleball courts is 165th. That's used today for construction traffic and golf cart maintenance, but it'll all be internal use for internal residents and internal access. And again, the closest resident to a court itself is 590 feet. I have some other
Thank you.
measurements.
Any other questions? Vice Chairman Barnes?
No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff or the applicant? All right. Thank you, Mr. Bull.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We will move into the public comments portion of this meeting. Just as a kind of some ground rules. I'm so glad that so many people are so enthusiastic about pickleball. I don't even know how to play it. And sincerely, though, I do appreciate you coming out. We do have some ground rules. It is 3 minutes, and right here to the right of what the podium will be, you'll see a green light. It'll go yellow about 30 seconds before, and then a red light will be your time. I will let you finish your thoughts. I don't mind that at all. Just so that you know, the commission typically does not interact as a back and forth questioning type situation. If you have questions that you want to bring up in public comment, typically what I do is I will write them down, and if we get a common theme, we'll try and make sure that we get your questions answered at the end. We will provide adequate time for whoever does want to speak and those that are outside in the lobby. Just be mindful of your time. And with that, and forgive me, some of the handwriting here, I think some of you might be doctors. In support of the pickleball situation is Gina and Dennis Ridgway. Outside? They can come in. Nanny Popenhagen is up next. If Nanny's outside. Oh, excuse me, Nancy. Are you a doctor, Nancy? And if you don't mind, Nancy, I'll jump right to you while we wait, if that is okay with you.
Fine with me, it's okay with you.
I thank you for being the first one.
So my name is Nancy Popenhagen. I live at 2239 North 169th in Pebble Creek. And first of all, we offer a lot of novice classes, so if you want to learn, we're there to help.
I need the gate code.
So I don't want to repeat much of what's said, but when I moved to Pebble Creek 5.5 years ago, I moved there because it was an active adult community. I didn't know pickleball then. Since that time, it has become very important in my active life. The good news is many PC residents enjoy this active sport. The bad news is many Pebble Creek residents enjoy this active sport. We need more courts. I'm here just to urge your support. I think Robeson has done a remarkable job trying to meet the needs of all of the community. I know on my street, which is not in the affected area, but things have changed with amenities, and it's for the betterment of the community. And so I urge your support for the betterment of the community. I would yield any of my time remaining back to the Robeson representative if needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate that. You said Gina was not here? No, didn't want to speak. Okay, but she is in support. That's correct. Okay. Saunders. I'm not even going to guess at the W.T. Saunders. Wade Johnson. You saw Wade outside?
Mr. Saunders did not want to speak.
What about Wade Johnson?
Wade Johnson? He's on his way.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Saunders is in support of the court. Mr.
Hello.
Johnson, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Wade Johnson. I live in Pebble Creek, 16705 West Alvarado Drive. Avid pickleball player, and as we've all heard, we do need more courts. A perfect example was yesterday. All 20 courts were full, and then we have a system. If you want to play, you have to wait for the next court. Well, yesterday morning, all courts were full, and there were 8 paddles in line to play at every available court, which means I'd have to wait for the game that was finished, then the next 4 paddles will go on, then the next 4, and then be my turn. Probably 30 to 45-minute wait. And this happens, this was the worst I'd ever seen, but this is what happens when we don't have enough courts. So I just urge your support to approve this, and it's something that's needed for this active adult community.
Thank you, Wade.
Thank you.
Carol Shoemaker?
My name is Carol Schumacher. I'm a resident of Pebble Creek, Unit 43A. I don't know if you have an aerial that's out a little bit further, but I am the closest single-family home to the proposed location. And regardless of what the attorneys say and whatever, I was never told when we purchased our lot that there was the opportunity or possibility of having pickleball courts adjacent to my home, ever. It was never in a disclosure. I have all of my closing documents. I have all of my disclosures. As a background, I sat on a zoning commission in Douglas County in Colorado for 5 years. I was in commercial real estate. I know this drill. I also understand NIMBYs, not in my backyard. I totally understand that and respect that. However, I oppose this project for the following reasons: noise, traffic, and lights. So the only way into that project right now is along Fairmount Avenue, and that is my home. You can see it actually at the bottom of the screen on this one over here. Right where it says Fairmount Avenue, right below that, that's my house. It's less than a couple blocks away. Currently, I will tell you that I can hear noise from the current pickleball facility that's a mile away, all right? If anybody tells you that I'm not gonna be able to hear the noise because they're gonna put up a 10-foot fence, I challenge that, I really do. I don't care if this is rezoned to anything else that is noise free. And noise neutral. Let's just, noise neutral, I think, is a fair statement. But for me to have to simply listen all day to, and it's not that I don't like pickleball players. Many of my friends play pickleball. This is a very difficult thing for me to do because some people don't even want to talk to me anymore. I know I'm spoken behind my back because of my position on this. I'm trying to protect my asset. We have almost $1 million tied up in our home. We went to the sales center and said, if this passes, can you find us another lot that we can do exactly that in Pebble Creek? And the answer was no, I'm sorry, ma'am. We don't have any lots that large where you could actually build exactly what you want. And that is the actual truth. The other thing is that for us to get a gift from Mr. Robeson of land and then for us to maintain it, I don't think is fair. Robeson has told me that the cost to maintain those courts on an ongoing basis after they're built is between $10 and $12 per homeowner per year. I don't want to pay for people to play pickleball when they play for free. My husband and I pay a little over $8,000 a year in Pebble Creek, which, by the way, the name of the resort is Pebble Creek Golf Resort Community. It doesn't have pickleball in the title. But we pay that much just to golf there and to help maintain our courses. So if pickleball wants to do this, they need to pay to play. Absolutely, it should not be our responsibility to take care of them. I have a lot more to say. My time is probably running out.
It has ran out, so if you want to finish up.
Okay. Here's what I would close by saying this. I would urge the Planning and Zoning Council to table this rezoning request until the applicant actively pursues comments from all residents of Pebble Creek. They've never done that. They've never asked people in Eagle's Nest. And this will have an effect on our entire community. I believe we love our amenities. We all want our amenities. But I want them to actively pursue comments from all residents of Pebble Creek to determine what amenities are most important to all residents of Pebble Creek. And then bring this back then. Let's have an open discussion instead of one club coming forward and trying to bamboozle this through. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions for me, let me know.
Thank you, Carol. I think you can submit written comments for the record if you wish. Alex Potboff. Nope. Okay. Pete Satij?
Close enough.
That's what I like.
Close enough. Patrick, was that last guy in favor?
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's correct. Alex was supportive of the recommendation. Pete, and please say your last name for me.
Sadig.
Sadig. Okay.
The Irish guy. I'm opposed to this. I listened to the attorney. I think he is on the line thing. I live on Indianola. I live about 2 houses from Carol and her husband on Indianola, and it's parallel to Fremont. And if you look at the map, people coming from the west side of Sarville, east side of Sarville, are not going to dogleg up and come down Fremont. They're going to come straight across Indianola and turn up to the pickleball. And my concern where I live is traffic, parking, and speeding. And as a City of Goodyear resident and a resident of Pebble Creek, if this goes through and the traffic becomes an issue on my street, which I think it's going to be, do I have any recourse with Goodyear? Can I come and get a speed bump put in on the road or some anything like that? My other issue is this is presented as an amenity for Pebble Creek. And I hear an awful lot of interest from the pickleball people about bringing more tournaments in here. Well, I think if they do that, those are outside people, and I don't think 49 or 69 parking spots up there are going to cover a tournament of any weekend nature. And I don't want them parking down at my street in front of my house. And I guess that's about it for me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that. Bob Chester. Bob?
As one of the original board members that worked with Greg and a lot of people on this project, it's a labor of love for a lot of people. Hundreds in the community have worked on this. Trying to be respectful of the people that live in 43B, the tennis people, the other amenities, golf. We have a need for a restroom out there in that part of the world. We have no lightning shelter out in that area. It's part of the flying area, so there, other structures can't exist. Almost 600 feet to the nearest house. There's really no other place in Pebble Creek that this can be put. We're about 130 feet from a house now with our current facility, and the sound wall works. The 18th hole of the East Golf Course is there, and you can barely hear pickleball. To her point, that lives in 43B or 43A, the sound wall does reflect the sound back up the driving range and towards her house of the existing. When they build this with the arcs and all that, the physics of the sound waves, it'll reflect a lot of the 303, the UPS, and all that noise back out towards the 303. So this is a big advantage for them. We did original sound studies behind the sound wall and the current structure on the green and the houses that are there. It's one of the quieter places except for the traffic on Clubhouse Avenue. I expect the same thing there. We've tried to be very careful. And Mr. Robeson is, and the Robeson Corporation is not only donating land, but money towards the construction, which is not only good for the community, but the community at large, Goodyear. But the pickleball club's putting $500,000 in it. So let's be clear, we're putting our money, and no other club has even come close to that. Not the golfers, not the entertainment people, or the arts and crafts. There's other overcrowded things. We are putting our money there. And so I bristle at the notion that we're not paying for our share of this. Golf is a different animal. It's sold outside, green fees, there's golf now, things like that. Pickleball, tennis, arts, all of that, yoga, swimming, that's part of the amenity package. So I'd like to point out that we are paying for it. So other than that, I think there's a petition that's got considerably more signatures than what you've been shown. I don't have that with me, but there is a larger one. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we will take Pamela de Los Angeles.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here. I'm actually here speaking on behalf of my sister, who is unable to be here this evening. She lives at 3540 North 164th Avenue and in very close proximity to the proposed pickleball courts. I'd like to read any text from her that she asked me to do. If these pickleball courts are approved, it needs to be mandated that quiet paddles, that is green zone approved pickleball paddles, must be used. Green zone approved paddles are what the Sun City Grand Association mandates must be used in their community. I understand a noise study was performed, but it is not only the decibel rating that should be considered. It is also the unrelenting noise that is objectionable. I was told the courts will be open until 9 p.m. I will have no quiet time on our back patio, no quiet dinner hour, no quiet before bed. Basically, no quiet during my hours awake. The ping, 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 ping of pickleballs will be a constant nuisance. I also object to the increased traffic these courts will generate on our street. When we bought our golf course lot, the only traffic on our street was basically homeowners driving to and from their own homes. The approval of these courts will turn our street into a thoroughfare, as it will be the quickest, shortest route to the courts for many residents. I hope you do not approve these courts, but if approved, I hope it will be mandated that the green zone paddles must be used. Thank you. And again, that's on behalf of my sister, Diana Matney.
Thank you. Next up is Martha Urban.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Martha Urban. I do live in Goodyear, specifically the Pebble Creek community. Thanks to Christian Williams and his staff for preparing the report that recommends approval of the request to rezone this property to planned area development. I would like to present 53 petitions that have a total of 926 signatures of all Pebble Creek residents who are also in favor of this rezoning. May the minutes of this meeting please show the delivery of these petitions. Where do I?
Duly noted. You can hand those to
Okay,
Christopher.
thank you.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Next up, Daryl Berry.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, maybe I need to use your mallet over there because of, some people have pickleball paddles over here to kind of ward off the differences of opinions here. Anyway, good. I'm glad that this particular slide is still up on the screen. My name is Daryl Berry, and I own a villa townhouse in Pebble Creek, Unit 43B. On that map, it's one of the villas right up in the uppermost right corner of that map. I'm a licensed professional engineer specializing in civil engineering. I have concerns about 6 negative environmental impacts that the proposed pickleball facility will have on the quality of life for homeowners in Unit 43B. First, increased traffic on West Fairmount Avenue and on North 165th Avenue. A traffic impact analysis was conducted, and the results of the TIA apparently indicated that these streets have sufficient traffic capacity to handle the increased volumes. This particular traffic impact analysis has not been made available for review for confirmation of those conclusions. I understand that wayfinding signage will be provided along West Fairmount Avenue to guide users to the proposed facility. Second, increased noise from increased traffic on West Fairmount Avenue and North 165th Avenue. Apparently, an acoustical analysis report was prepared for the proposed project and concluded that increased traffic noise would not negatively affect Unit 43B. The acoustical analysis report has not been made available for confirmation of those conclusions. Number 3, and most importantly, noise from the proposed pickleball facility. It was reported at tonight's meeting that the proposed facility will have a minimum 9-foot-high masonry block wall built around it to mitigate noise. The previously mentioned acoustical analysis report apparently concluded that noise from the pickleball facility will not have negative noise impacts within Unit 43B. I challenge that. The acoustical analysis report has not been made available for confirmation of those conclusions. In the absence of the acoustical analysis report, how can it be determined that a minimum 9-foot-high masonry wall will adequately mitigate pickleball noise within Unit 43B? Think about it. Number 4, lights from the proposed facility will be of a type that light pollution from the facility, or lights should be of a type that they will not create a negative environmental impact
3 minutes.
in Unit 43B. 5th, I'm almost done. Access to the proposed facility along North 165th Avenue. It was mentioned it's currently used as a road for golf course maintenance equipment and other vehicles. How will the access be provided to the pickleball facility at time of construction and when the pickleball court is fully built out? What route will be used for all non-pickleball facility traffic to access the construction yard? Number 6 and last, time of day usage of the proposed pickleball facility has been proposed from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 a.m. is too early and is totally unacceptable. I urge you to carefully consider how these 6 negative environmental impacts will be mitigated with this project so that the quality of life for homeowners in Pebble Creek Unit 43B will not be compromised by this proposed project. As mentioned by Carol, tabling the proposal at this time is a fair decision. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The last speaker card I have, and if there's somebody wishes to speak, just you can start getting in line. Jim Barb. Jim Barb.
Hi, I'm Jim Barb, and I live in Pebble Creek. I'm currently the president of the pickleball club, and as you might imagine, I have received emails, probably close to thousands, since I've been in office about the pickleball courts or the proposed pickleball courts. And I could come up here and read all kinds of them, but I received one just the other day that I thought would be of interest to people, especially the people that are opposed to it. It's from a Jim Voice, who Jim claims he is the closest resident to the proposed pickleball courts. So I just wanted to read his email real quick. As my home is the closest owner-occupied residence to the planned development of pickleball and other facilities, sharing my thoughts may be helpful in gaining support and approval of the development. I support the planned development of the pickleball courts and other facilities in Pebble Creek. The comments which follow explain why. I live in the immediate vicinity of the planned development, and my home is the closest owner-occupied residence to the planned development, as I am on the corner of 165th and Piccadilly. Some of my neighbors have expressed concern about the planned development, as pickleball has a reputation of being a somewhat noisy sport due to the distinctive ping of each shot. As such, it is not appropriate in the immediate vicinity of residential homes. Prior to moving to Pebble Creek in September 2020, I lived in another 55-plus community where the proximity of the pickleball courts was roughly the same as the proximity of the planned courts relative to my Pebble Creek home. My former home and my Pebble Creek home are both approximately the same distance from other sources of noise, I-10, where I formerly lived, and the 303 and Indian School Road here. The pickleball courts near my former home did not have any walls or any other sound damping structures. Nevertheless, at the distance, I needed to go outside and listen carefully to hear the faint sounds of pickleball. The pickleball noise, or perhaps lack of noise, at my former home was of absolutely no concern to me. I likewise have no concerns that the planned development will in any way detract from the enjoyment of my Pebble Creek home. When I purchased my Pebble Creek home, I knew the courts were planned for an area where RVs are currently parked. I had no concerns given the distance I was told. I was given additional comfort as I learned about the walls that would surround the pickleball and the noise testing that had been done to allay any fears of residents in the area. In summary, I think the development as planned is well designed and will not add to the noise level for any residences. The planned development will be a very welcome change from the dusty, barren space immediately across the street from me, and I eagerly anticipate the completion of the planned development. I just wanted to read that. Jim is not a pickleball player either. And to reiterate, our club is raising $500,000 to go towards this project. And some other people mentioned about the overcrowding. That is an understatement. People will be leaving Pebble Creek if they don't have access to additional pickleball courts. And talking about protecting your assets, having these pickleball courts built will enhance the value of their homes as people are moving to Arizona and looking for places to play. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, I see you in the back of the room. Please come forward. You can speak, and then immediately after that, if you'll see Christopher or Katie to fill out a speaker's card so that we have that for the record, please. And again, 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Gary Halpern. I live in 43B 4003 North 164th. One of the previous speakers was giving an indication about the quality of life in 43B. He does not speak for 43B. The Homeowners Association within that group has made it clear that they take no position on it. So I wanted to just clarify that for the record, that he does not speak for 43B and the quality of life.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to address the commission this evening? Or anyone in the lobby that wishes to address the commission? Yes, sir, please come forward. And if there's anybody in the lobby, you can start making your way in, please.
Good evening. My name's Pat Murphy. I've been in pickleball and lived in Pebble Creek since 2009. My experience is president of the International Federation of Pickleball, which is the world governing body for pickleball. Prior to that, I was on the USA Pickleball Board. So we've dealt with noise issues. And I'd just like to address a comment that was made about these green paddles and the noise that they make. And the noise issue has always been something that pickleball in general has dealt with throughout the whole United States. I've been to many council meetings like this, and it seems to be the number one issue. The green paddles and the noise and that, she wasn't accurate in the assumption that these green paddles in Sun City and that, they've gotten away from that. Some of the noise from the paddle is relationship to the ball that is used. A harder ball will make more noise. We currently use a softer ball, which is not as noisy. I was also president of the Pebble Creek Pickleball Club when Mr. Robeson and RCI added the additional 12 courts to make 20 courts there. We dealt with the same noise issues within that area when we added that. They added the sound wall. And during my tenure as president, there was the concern of noise, but afterwards, we really had no issues with it. And I don't think any of those neighbors that live within that area, when we increased the courts to 20, had any complaints. So pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports. It is also one of the most healthy sports for elderly people to get back in shape. And we haven't even talked about the health benefits of it. So obviously I'm in support of pickleball and this project. So I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I think, did you walk in and wanted to speak?
I'm Steve Cook. I live at 16263 West Vale. It's a couple blocks from there. Mostly just reiterating what he said, you know, about the green paddles. Yeah, that's not pickleball. That's, I've been in a community where they use those, and it's kind of a different game. And although I sympathize some with the people, you know, complaining about noise, you know, and trying to say that it's a golf community, it's not a golf community. It's an active adult community. This is an active sport and way overcrowded. And as far as noise, you're going to get that everywhere. I know somebody was complaining about 6 a.m. in the morning. I live by a cart path, and I hear carts, you know, especially the gas ones, going by all morning, all afternoon, all evening long, and you don't see people petitioning to put up walls by the golf, you know, by the golf cart paths just to cut down the noise. And you know, if it was just anti-noise, no, I don't want to pay for this. I'd probably put a 9-foot wall up in the bed so I couldn't hear the wife snore. I don't want to go. I'm going to need protection when I go back out there. But, anyway, I'm just, you know, saying that you can't expect there to not be any noise, especially when you live underneath the jets, you know, and over there along Indian School. I'm a couple blocks off of it, and I hear cars coming and going all the time, especially there at the intersection close to where this is. By the UPS, you know, there's lots of trucks taking off and slowing down there, and the 303. But it's active adult. You know, there's going to be noise, and that's all I have.
Thank you. The last two speakers, if you'll make sure that you fill out speakers cards for the record, please, before you leave, I'd appreciate that. Speaker.
I did.
You did.
I filled out a form, Steve Cook. I think I put not speak on it.
Okay. Okay.
I was in favor of it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to address the commission? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Pete Ishii. I just moved into Pebble Creek 18 months ago with the idea, hopefully, that we would have more courts here. That was the main reason we picked this community, was for pickleball. But with the existing courts that we have, we don't have enough courts to keep everybody going. And the noise keeps coming up. When I ride my bicycle to the pickleball courts on Clubhouse Drive, When I'm on the other side of the wall, I don't even know if there's people over there. I have to drive around to the gate where there is no wall to see if there's people there. So when you're talking 400 or 500 feet away and a noise wall there, I don't believe the noise is going to be an issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else in the lobby? I think we have some for and against that Christopher will read. And then how many emails do you think you have?
I believe I have 5 or 6 different emails to read.
Okay. If you'll go through that list.
I will.
Both, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So these are speaker cards that were filled out tonight at the meeting tonight that are people that are in support that do not wish to speak. And for the sake of brevity, if it's acceptable, Mr. Chairman, I won't read their names, but I will tell you that I counted them twice and there's 62 of them.
All residents of
Pebble Creek, and all indicated that they do not wish to speak and they are in support.
Thank you.
And then if I can go ahead and read the emails.
Yes.
Okay.
Were there any non-speaking cards that were opposed? Do you have any of those?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So the first email is from Mr. James Moore. The proposed pickleball complex presents a number of likely unpleasant results for those with homes nearby. My comments are based on my observations of operations at the existing courts in Pebble Creek and our development in Washington State. The first for me is the extremely bright lighting. The existing courts on Clubhouse Drive are officially available from 6:30 a.m. until 11 p.m. The lighting is a brilliant white and will flood more than a quarter square mile surrounding the facility. Obviously, the light does not stop at the court boundaries. Light pollution is a common complaint in these situations and a very well-documented phenomenon. Secondly, the noise. Despite Robeson's public assertion that the additional noise is less than 10 decibels, the noise from the pickleball striking paddles is intense and loud and is capable of traveling a very long way, especially when the nightly prevailing winds will blow it in our direction. Empirical measurements cited in other lawsuits are 40 to 50 decibels at the time of a strike. Sound walls are not an effective barrier and do not resolve this issue. Add the paddle strikes to the shouts of participating players and the situation will be very unpleasant for those of us who wish to enjoy the patios that we paid for. Trash. Overflowing garbage containers and blowing trash will be another annoyance for those of us nearby. Given the relative isolation of the complex, it will very likely attract scavenging wildlife and pests, crows, rats, and coyotes. The residuals from late hour play will be available to them until cleaned up a day or two later, and for multiple days over a weekend. The additional traffic and automotive noise will also add to the unpleasantness. It's very likely that many pickleball participants will cut through our villas properties looking for the courts. Those residents on Piccadilly Road whose patios face Fairmont will be subject to dozens of additional cars and trucks during most of the day and night. Even when the facility is closed, many cars will be turning around in the parking lot, shining their headlights on homes close by. The complex will likely be an attractive venue for unauthorized usage and parties. It also must not become a venue for other functions and must be securely locked during down hours. I'm sure that this is not an exhaustive list of issues. The issues and problems associated with pickleball courts are well known and documented. A simple Google search of pickleball complaints returns more than 145,000 entries. I cannot understand why these effects have largely been ignored or downplayed with little regard for existing residents. That's the first one. The next one is from Mr. Ken Schumacher. Let's see. He attached a signed petition. This is the one that Christian and I were talking about previously. A signed petition as a PDF to the email, and it contains the names and identifying information that confirms that they live in Pebble Creek. There are, and I won't read these names either, but I did count them twice, and there are 52 people that signed the petition, all agreeing to this statement. that they oppose the rezoning request. Mr. Schumacher is incoming 2021 president of Pebble Creek Men's Golf Association, which is the largest men's golf league in the state of Arizona, with a current membership 564 plus 120 associate members. I oppose this rezone request due to the noise and player activity from pickleball players that would occur directly adjacent to the Tuscany Falls West holes number 3 and number 4. The proposed pickleball courts would be approximately 120 feet from where the ladies tee off on hole 3 and less than 100 feet from the black tee on hole number 4. The largest distraction to a golfer is the inadvertent noise at the wrong time. This would indeed be the case if this project is allowed at this location. In the event that a restroom is constructed at this location, it will be of no benefit to golfers since they have only played 2 holes since the clubhouse. A restroom is needed between holes number 5 and 6, excuse me, to be of any benefit to the thousands of players that will play this course over a 12-month period. Finally, I want to maintain my quiet enjoyment of my home in Pebble Creek. Respectfully submitted, Mr. Ken Schumacher. The next one, Mr. Chairman, is from Katie and Dan Croy, C-R-O-Y. We are not able to attend the upcoming April 14th P&Z meeting regarding the proposed added pickleball courts and zoning change in Pebble Creek. Please read our email. My husband and I are residents of Pebble Creek and ask that you please consider our concerns regarding the potential zoning change and added sports complex in 43. We believe the location will negatively impact not only the value of our home, but also our ability to have our ability to enjoy having even a moment of quiet in our lovely yard. The current plans indicate the pickleball courts will be open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., which means the noise of the balls and the additional traffic will be continuous every day. The potential exists when courts are full for 64 carts every hour, resulting in approximately 1,000 people daily. This section of the community was not developed with this level of traffic or noise in mind. This change of zoning and the added sports area feels like a bait and switch. Since we purchased our home, we were assured that only a golf course would be developed on the land in question. We are greatly concerned about the minimalistic noise abatement walls being planned. If you think the current plans are adequate, please check with the homeowners who live close to the current pickleball courts. The 6 to 8 feet walls do not filter the sound of balls. Has Robeson offered a better plan for quieter balls and added soundproofing? That's obviously a question. Please do not allow this proposal to stand. It will take the joy out of living in Pebble Creek for many of us, since this zoning change will result in the noise of the courts and the traffic being too close to our homes every waking hour. The proposed zoning change is not truly the best use of the land and is only the best and least expensive for Robeson, not the homeowners. Why not require Robeson to pre-plan and add pickleball courts to the land that is currently undeveloped housing area closer to the 303 freeway? They have plenty of space where no houses have currently been built. Giving up this open land will most likely not be preferred by Robeson, but the impact on the community would be fair, and I choose to believe that this is what we all want and deserve. With our new suggested plan, any future homeowners who may choose to purchase a home closer to the pre-planned courts would enter the sales agreement with awareness of the planned sports area and knowledge of the accompanying noise. The sports area would not be forced upon them as this pending proposal is being forced on us. Please consider our requests for other alternative locations and save our pre-existing neighborhood. It is not that we don't want pickleball courts added to the community. We just don't want to give up our quiet neighborhood, and neither would you, since this is why we purchased in that location. Thank you for reviewing our concerns and finding a solution that works for all Pebble Creek homeowners, not just pickleball players. The next email, Mr. Chairman, is from Michael and Marianne Quinn. This is in regards to the current rezoning request that is under review by the Goodyear Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council for Pebble Creek pickleball. We ask that this letter be read into the record, as we cannot attend. While much of the focus has been on the sound and lighting impact from the pickleball courts on the surrounding homes and villas, this isolated and valid concern all but ignores the traffic ramifications of future permitted uses of this proposed development. The build-out resulting from this rezoning request will create another community recreational complex that will include several amenities and activities that currently exist both in Tuscany Falls and Eagles Nest. It will also allow for a mix of other recreational uses, such as remote-controlled vehicle track. RCI has provided reasonable sound mitigation solutions for pickleball courts. However, there has not been sufficient focus on the inevitable increase in vehicular traffic resulting from the full build-out of the complex. Our concern is not only the traffic on Saraville and West Fairmont as the main access roads, but also the cut-through traffic on the surrounding residential streets. Due to the long-term traffic implications that this development presents, we are opposed to the rezone of this planned development area. We strongly recommend that the undeveloped area within the community and the expansion of the current recreational sites be reconsidered for this project. The next one is from Jim and Kathy Sheard. My wife and I live on Indianola Avenue in Pebble Creek. We purchased our lot in 2014 and were one of the first to build on our side of the neighborhood. We are full-time residents. We chose this lot for being a location away from the recreational activities and traffic. The proposed pickleball facilities will be in a direct line from our property. The anticipated additional traffic behind our property, Fairmont, as well as the noise, is something we never ever envisioned. We are very aware of the need for the additional pickleball courts and encourage their growth. However, this is the wrong location. Even many of our neighbors who play pickleball would much rather the courts be closer to the main activity center. Additionally, as a golfer, I am very concerned about the location only feet away from the tee box on number 3 and 4, and the green on holes number 2 and 3. Not only the noise from the paddles, but the shouting while golfers are playing. The restroom location is also a concern and is also in line with the golf tee boxes and adjacent to golf cart paths. We are very opposed to this proposal and ask that you reject this zoning change. The last email that I have to read tonight is from Susie Nee. She says she won't be able to attend the meeting tonight, but wanted her email in strong support for the approval of the pickleball courts to be read. I've never been very athletic my whole life, but when I moved here 10 years ago, I learned to play pickleball. It has allowed me a way to become much more physically fit while also providing a way to socialize with other community members. At this time, it is very difficult to get a court, and more people are moving into Pebble Creek, and as Goodyear itself expands as a city. I hope your committee will recommend to the council that this project gets approved and provide more recreational and social opportunities for our community. That's what I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Christopher. One last opportunity for anybody from the public that wishes to address the commission. Anybody in the hallway? And I'll ask any of the commissioners, is there any final questions for either the applicant or staff at this time?
Nope.
Vice Chairman Barnes?
No further questions. Thank you.
All right. With that, I think we got everything read into the record. All of that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I will I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve 20210-00007.
I second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Steiner, seconded by Commissioner Maloney, to approve the Pebble Creek Phase 2 Pickleball and Recreation PAD. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Clymer?
Well, I'll just mull it over when I make my vote, okay?
Okay. And you have the permission to explain your vote. Just to let you know, as we go into the vote, the commission is purely an advisory commission, so the final decision, whether it goes yes or no, the final decision lies with the council, and no matter what, it will go to that meeting on April 26th. So you'll have your so-called second bite at the apple, I guess, to address them. And with that, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Clymer?
Mr. Chairman, you know, I'm a Pebble Creek resident. I've been here in Pebble Creek 20 years, well before there was pickleball. So it was quite a shock to see how quickly that grew. And I was on the board of directors when it really started full bore. Would it have gone that quickly if it was cost money to play? I don't know. Now, there is a lot of need for more pickleball. You've heard that. On the other hand, some people say the tennis courts aren't being used, and I've seen that. I guess there's a way to restripe them and use them for multi-use. And I really sympathize with the people who think that they may have some issues with noise from their residents. But I'm going to vote yes.
Commissioner Steiner?
Yay.
Commissioner Maloney?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Barnes?
No.
Chairman Bray?
First of all, I want to thank everyone that participated in tonight's meeting. I've been doing this for probably way too long, and this is the most attendance we've had. So congratulations to you all getting involved and staying involved in your community, even though you have differences of opinions. The major theme that I have heard, obviously, is traffic, noise, and light. Not have been around a lot of pickleball. I can't talk to the sound portion of it. I would sincerely encourage both the applicant and the city moving into the council meeting that if there are reports, that those are made public if possible, so that those can see the light of day, just transparency on that. And if there is some traffic issues that can be addressed or mitigated, that those be brought forward as well. And with that, I vote aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you. On to, actually, you know what? I won't hold any of you any longer. If you want to make your way out, please do so, and I'll wait for a minute, and we'll finish our meeting.
I know.
Does anybody here live near 43B?
I'm close, but not that
No.
close.
All right, we'll wrap up our meeting at this time. So on to staff communication. Christopher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things to report back to you. As we typically do, we let you know the outcome of the cases that you previously considered. If you remember at our March meeting, you considered the preliminary plat for the Aviata at Ballpark Village, the single-family residential project across from the ballpark on Estrella Parkway. The cobblestone use permit for the car wash just south of Target at the Canyon Trails Town Center. And then also the rezone for the Arizona State Land Department south of Sedaya and Indian School and north of the interstate. All of those cases cascaded to the March 26th City Council meeting, and all of them were approved.
Perfect. Is that all the communication you have for us? Katie, do you have anything? Nope. Great. I want to thank some of the city staff left, but the extra city staff, the police officers that assisted in this evening's meeting. It's always better when you're not here, but we appreciate you being in attendance for us and serving this commission. I sincerely appreciate you being here. With that, the next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting will be held on May 12, 2021 at 6 p.m. at the Goodyear Municipal Court and Council Chambers. Being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.